All right, so here we have the two lower brace pieces. This is where the washer bottle sits in on the passenger side. This one is the same thing for the driver's side. Obviously not for the washer bottle, but this is the pieces in there. I'll show you where these were. So that's what these three holes are from, is right here. This basically sat in here like this. And then the same thing on this side with the other piece. So as you can tell, it's all rotted through, real heavily pitted on the back. This piece, the flange got tore off trying to remove it. And this is part of the original, what on a Bug would have been the spare tire well piece, but so the back half of it on a Ghia. So the quickest and easiest thing to do here is just go ahead and make a new one. I mean, there's not much to these. Just take a flat piece of steel, bend a couple flanges on it, done. And then I'll just make this same piece, trace this out, spot weld it back together, and so on. Same thing with this, because there's no point in trying to waste the time to repair this. All right, so let me get to doing that. All right, so here I have my template. So just simple stuff. Just took it, laid it up on its side, started marking that, rolled it down, traced this outer curve, and then came back, scribed a line here, drew a line, whatever, and then made this for my flange, because obviously this is a separate piece. And since this actually has this recess in it, what I'll do is I'll just make a tab for this end and then just weld that little flange on there and reuse this piece, because the rest of it's not rotted, and it already has that recess in it. So I'll just go ahead and repair that one instead of making a new one because of that. All right, so now you can see that I have my piece all cut out of steel. Kind of marked my lines on here, and then what I did is I took this original piece, laid it back on here, and then scribed right along the bend on both sides. Now, obviously, you can see how much wider that lip is than what I'm going to need. And a lot of times I like to leave that longer, because obviously when you put that bend in it, it can shrink that lip up. It's a lot easier to trim off the excess after you've bent it than come up just a little short and have to remake the whole panel. So just like this side, you can see, with the width of my finger, it's crazy bigger, but that's okay. I gotta trim it down either way, so that's just a safety precaution, shall we say. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and stick it in the vise here, lined up with my scribe marks, and then I'll just hammer it over and roll this edge up, flip it, repeat the process. All right, so here's the piece. I went ahead and I just tack welded it under here instead of trying to get my spot welder on it while it was moving around. Just sitting there. So now I'll have to come back, prep this out so I can spot weld it, but get it to stay again. It's all lined up here, flush across. It's not going to stay. And then I'll just go ahead and fill this weld back in where the rest of the tab was originally. So I just went ahead and lined up where I had to drill it out there. And yeah, so it'll look nice and clean everywhere you see it. It'll look factory. So not too bad. So before I weld that one in, I'm gonna go ahead and make the one for this side. All right, so here's both pieces all done. This is the passenger side with the washer bottle, and then here's the driver side. A lot more simplistic, but here they are. Now I'll go ahead and get them installed. Okay, I'm starting to put it in here, starting to get it welded up. It's coming out real well. Okay, so I got this one tacked into place. I'll just line it up as I go. But it's fitting in there good. A little bit of a larger gap here, but that's all right. I'll fill it right in. But it's looking good. Okay, so I got this all welded up. On this side, I had to come back and cut out an extra chunk because when you're dealing with these rusty cars, you have to go a lot further times than it seems to get good metal, because every time I was coming to try to weld across here, it was just blowing out. So I just went ahead and did that, filled in those gaps, all that. I'm leaving these because these line up with the brace that's going in there. So that one's in, this one's in. Obviously still need to grind it all down. But now I'm gonna jump over here and attack this where it had rotted through on both sides. So I'll cut this section out and graft those in, get this ready to go back in. All right, so I came in here, ground my welds down, both sides, got it all cleaned up, ready to install this bracket, which you can see I repaired that section there on both, got it all welded up, ground down, ready to go. So I'm gonna get this installed. I'm gonna be able to line it up with, that's why these holes are here. And then obviously I left all these, so we'll line it up and weld it up. All right, so I just thought I'd show that I come in here and went ahead and used a spot welder on it to begin with. Both sides, get it all locked in, then I will come back and plug weld all these old ones. But it's on there good and solid now, so anyway, I just want to point that out. All right, so this morning I'm coming out here and I'm gonna go ahead and get these all boxed back in. That's pretty much the last thing I have to do before I can reinstall the nose. So what I've already done is I've come over here. I started out with a cardboard template, my flange, just get it real close. I had one of these sections. You can see where I'd already pre-bent and kind of test fitted it just to make sure it was going to work out the way I wanted before I invested too much time and stuff. And I actually, this was beneficial because I tried one way of doing it, and I decided that this other way that I'm actually going to do it is a better way to go. What I'm talking about there is from the factory under here, you can see where they overlapped it. So basically this part is bent around. Same with this lower lip, is all the same piece, just bent up. So both of those were, but here in this upper section was a separate piece, and they were on the inside. So the first way I tried going about it was folding this inner flange over, which I still have to grind this, so don't get ahead of me there. So I have to fold this over and go in. Well, I have this upside down actually. So fold that in, got it tight, folded this top lip over the top, and I was preparing to do it where this flange went underneath, and then I was just gonna come in here and spot weld it, flange on the inside, spot weld it or plug weld it. Since I've already installed this is kind of in the way. To do it all the way down, I could do the upper section with spot welds, but I had to plug weld the bottom. So then I got to thinking, this lower lip on this side's in good shape, but this side is a mess. Also, the top is kind of a mess, going back on this section. So long story short on that, this was beneficial, but I've come over here already, got my new pieces cut out to do both sides. And I've already cut and flanged this one. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna have that flange on the inside, get it good and tight, and then I'm gonna come back here, scribe the outside, and I'm gonna roll the top lip over. So I'm gonna put my flange on the outside here, but I'm just gonna do it flush here and here, and then I'll just go and weld this edge, and then I'll do the same thing on this side. Flange over the top, which will clean up this mess, and then I'll just weld the edge and weld this lower edge, which eliminates all this mess. So just a lot better way to go. And the only thing that won't look factory will be up here. It will look factory, but unless you knew that they come from the underside instead of the top side, which, I mean, you'd have to crawl all up in here. The headlight bucket's going to be here, all of this. I mean, you'd have to be under there really looking for something to tell that it's not exactly the way it came from the factory. Okay, so now I've held my piece up there, and you can see I've scribed it all along here, Now this lower one is just kind of rough because it was wanting to move a bit. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll my top flange over, and then once I have that good and tight on there, make sure that this flange is tight to the body, this one's tight. I'll double check this line, remark this one, cut this piece, cut that piece, and it's ready to install. So this is the most efficient, nicest way. You know, I'll end up with a nice finished product, and it'll be the best, you know, time-wise. All right, so here I've got my flange done on the inside, outside, hole punched, prepped all my steel back. I got a couple screws in here to pull this down real tight and snug. Got it real tight in here, and I just left a little bit of an edge, top and bottom, so that as I come in here and start pulling this in, I'm gonna get it locked in here, start coming across top, locking it in, and then I'll just grind this outer edge back flush, and then I'll just come along, tack it in place, get it all nice and firm, and then come back and weld all the way around. All right, so here's the end result. Got it all welded in, ground down. So you can see what I'm saying about just coming back and welding it around. It's just nice, clean finish. And the top just has that nice edge on it. So now I'll come back when I line the nose up on here, and I'll mark it where it needs to be, and then cut the center out. All right, on to this side. All right, so here's this side. I'll fit it in. Getting ready to weld it up. All right, this one's all finished up. Got it all ground down. Turned out really nice, just like the other side. So now I have to get the nose hung back up on here, line these up so that I can mark out where I need to open them. And then once I get that handled, I'll come in here on areas like this and strip back this surfaced rust, and probably brush some epoxy or spray some epoxy on all of this real quick, because this will go back to the sandblaster once all this metal work is finished, to come in here, you know, clean all this back up, just kind of get the areas that that didn't get hit the first time, like this and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm just gonna go in here and protect these areas that you can't get to. So like I said, I'm gonna get this up here, mark out where these need to be cut, get those handled, and then spray where I need to, that I don't think will get in there with a blaster or something like that. And then we can start welding this doggone nose back on here. That'll be nice. All right, so I went ahead and kind of rehung the nose here. I got these in here trying to tighten it up as much as I can, but this nose, with it having so many contours, etc., you can see this gap, and then you see how this is just like shooting up. Same thing on this side. It's just moving all over the place. This isn't the actual gap. But you see how it's got this big of a gap, and then this is overlapping. Check that gap out in between these and here, both sides. But what it really is, and even trying to get these clamps to stay in here and line all this up, it's just the nose has to kind of roll and just be pressed in, because I can, by hand, you can see how much flex it's got there. I can push it in on both sides, and when I do that, see if it'll show on this side, basically it's taking this down where it needs to be. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take this nose back off, prep all of this, because I'll have to plug weld it in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep everything out, and on the inner structure here, anywhere, you know, like down here where these little cross braces are, you know, it'll be just about impossible to get stuff up underneath of them, as well as this entire channel where you can see where that rubber seal is that goes in there between the two. I'm gonna come in here and strip all that back, put a fresh coat of epoxy on that, and probably dust a little coat of paint on there before I go ahead and put the seal on. So that's what I'm gonna get to now. All right, so I've come in here, prepped all this back underneath here and stuff too. Anywhere that seal is gonna go in that I can't get to and that I feel like maybe the sandblaster might not get to under here with surface rust. I got all that prepped out. Come all the way around here, you know, all the way up top. In here on this piece, anywhere there was any kind of surface rust, and the same thing on this side, got it all prepped all the way around, as well as the inside seam. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, instead of brushing on the epoxy, is I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with some self-etch, and then I'll put some paint on over that. This ceramic paint here is real strong. So I'm gonna throw these two over it, and a lot of it from the factory, they just had a light coat of grease over this. You know, some of it had this like etch prime on it, but this will be better than doing, you know, what they did. So, all right. All right, so here it is. Got the paint on there afterward. I went up, got it in there real well. Just anywhere that the sandblaster may not get to at the end. This is all covered and coated good. Sprayed in here in the seams really well. Sprayed all back in here real well. So a lot of this, like I say, it'll get blasted again. Just in the meantime, making sure it's covered anywhere that it may not get to, and where this seal is gonna go. I did go ahead and remount this inspection cover before I put the nose back on to make sure I could line up the hole and drill it easy. So got that done as well. All right, so my next issue here that I have to address, you can see that I ran my self-tapping screws through here and was able to pull it in tight for the most part, except for from here up and around, huge gap. You can see there. And the other side is even worse. You can see how it was rolling it in. It's dark in here, I know, but look, it's my finger. You can definitely see, but yet up at the top, from here over is tight. All this is tight, but as it goes this direction, the gap just spreads and spreads. I know the lighting's not the greatest in here, but check that gap out. It's massive. So I had the whole nose up here with these, trying to pull this all back together. So many contours and shapes and everything. You're trying to press it in and, you know, bend it and all this to get everything lined up. And obviously I have it all lined back up. It's not sitting flush now because I took those out. Have it tack welded. So I took these clamps back out. And you can see this side, it pulled it back tighter because it's sitting right on top of each other here. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and cut my tack welds I have here where all this is lined up. I'm just gonna, as I'm removing the nose, because most likely I'm gonna have to remove it and add all in here, I'm just gonna start relieving all the stress on it and then see if I can fold the nose back in, get these tight. If I can, I'll screw them down tight and then see if I can pull all of this back out and get everything else lined up without having to redo these. I don't have much faith in that at this time, but I'm gonna give it a shot because I'm already there anyway. So I just have like 3 or 4 on the tack welds on this side. Same on this side. I'm gonna leave up here because I had just, you know, plug welded the spot welds. And then at the bottom down here, you can see the gap, it's not attached yet. And I've tried pushing that up, it's not. It's the sides have to roll in. So I'm gonna try that, try to squeeze it back, see if I can pull it in, and see what happens. All right, so as you can see, I've cut this loose, and as I suspected, you can't move that at all. I've tried. The gap is exactly the same, no movement whatsoever. So one thing I did want to toss out there is there's only 2 companies that make these. Obviously, I would not buy these again. The other company that makes the black ones, because I'm not going to throw any names out there, they sell them as 2 pieces. So if you're not planning on making these yourself, which at this point in the cost, I think if I had to do it all over again, I would just make them. However, if I was to purchase these again, I would not buy these. I would buy the other ones that are black that come in 2 pieces. And it seemed like this was going to be a lot better way of doing it, you know, all one piece, because then you don't have to come in here and fill these in and so on. However, if I would have had these as 2 pieces, I could have just put a couple of screws holding the 2 together, mocked it up, stuck it in here, you know what I mean, and got my angles proper, and then come back, you know, marked everything, and then welded it, and then attached the nose. So I'm not sure because of how close this edge is right here to the curve. I don't think it's going to give me enough to whether I could undo the spot welds in here, this small section here, and the same on the top, and then just leave it connected on this side and kind of take it and roll it in. I don't believe that's going to be possible. I'm just trying to figure out the quickest, best solution, because either I come back here and add, or I'm going to have to add on this end. So I guess I won't know until I get it off. I'm just going to have to take measurements from the inside. A lot of this is going to be hard to film, so that's why I'm just kind of going over it. I'm just going to have to come in here. I'll take a Sharpie, and I'll mark the distance as it goes across so I can have a reference, because this is a pain in the butt to be trying to hang it up here and mock it up. You can't really get it where it needs to go until you start, you know, tack welding it together and everything, because there's just so much fluctuation and everything. Anyway, so I think I'll just mark it, both sides, pull it off, and once I have it off, I'll just assess the situation and figure out what's the best way to go. All right, so I was getting ready to cut this loose at the top on both sides, and then my phone rang. I had to stop, go do something else for a minute, and while I was gone, I was thinking about how I was going to tack this, and I come up with what I feel is going to be the best way to go. This is still attached, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and kind of do like a pie cut. I'm just going to cut this open and then let it spread to pull this tight, and then all I have to do is fill the gap when I pop the nose off, and then I think that's going to be the best, quickest solution to this. So that way I only have to come in here as far as I need to, and I have access to everything easily right now. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and just go ahead and slice it, let it spread, pop it off, fill it in, put it on, done. All right, so I went in here and sliced on it, and you can see how much I've opened that gap up. I know the lighting is not that great, but this side will be easier to see. Huge gap. But now, this side's nice and tight all the way around. You can see here where it still needs to kind of fold down and pull up here a little nicer. But now I have it all out as far as it needs to be. So now I can go ahead and remove my welds here and here, pop the nose skin back off, and then repair this, but everything is now out where I know that it needs to be. And this one, you can kind of see how it's pulled back from the screws. This one might need a little more attention than the other side. Just, you know, stretching and shaping these things into the nose skin to begin with. I may end up just kind of taking this over and then making a new lip section on this one. Whereas this one, I might just take a strip and put it back in here and call it done. All right, so here it is cut off. You can see more so what I had to do. So now, this down here, I'll have to clean up this taper. This one, I missed the screw when I was going to pull it off, so it's a little higher, but basically I'll take a straight line across there. And then this side, you can see that massive gap in it as well. So now I have these leftovers that I cut off of them for how long they were. So I'm gonna take this and then start making a new one. This side especially, I'm gonna just make a new lip and bring it down and around. So let me get to doing that. All right, so right here I've started roughing it in. I cut a 2-inch strip out of that leftover metal from this because this is way thinner than this. So what I did, as you can see, I just kind of hand formed because this stuff is so much thinner. So what I have it going on here is basically, it's just sitting there, but I have it lined up around, all the way around, which I'm just a hair short. If this is length I had, I'll just put a small piece at the end. Then I come back, if you'd quit running from me here. I came on the inside, started scribing it, because I'll need to cut it and then put this little flange on it. This side is definitely the way to go with this piece. I'll see how that goes, and then I'll decide whether I do this side the same, or I'm leaning more towards just putting a sliver in this one, because the rest of this is in pretty nice shape, whereas this one was more distorted, and when I had to drill it and so on, this seemed to be the quicker, whatever's the most efficient way. So, all right, let me finish this piece up. All right, so I cut the piece off. You can see I got some slits in here. We're gonna start pie cutting it basically. And I've already removed this. I'll set this on there. And my next step is I'm gonna start folding this lip over. It'd be a lot easier to go ahead and do it now, and then start just kind of lining it up and tacking it around. Then I'll come back and fully weld it. Okay, so I got this roughed in here, started welding it in and up and around. So it's not finished, obviously. Like I said, it's just roughed in. So I got it remounted up here. Everything's just sit up here, and I put my screws back in like I had them before. And you can see where I've marked it across here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off and then just extend this over and bring it to here. The reason is you can see how these holes have elongated. Everything else fit nice and tight, but this still had a gap, and when I went to pull it in, it's just too much pressure on it. So just nice little simple cut here and make a piece, problem solved. Everything else will line up good. You can see here it's just right on. So okay, so you can see I got this one welded up. I got to finish welding it. It's not completely done, but it's up there nice and flush and tight. So now I'm moving on to this side while I have it kind of mocked up. And on this one, I'm gonna do it in 2 pieces as well. I'm gonna do 1 piece to do this curve, and I'm just gonna fill in this gap because this flange is all perfectly fine here, whereas this one's kind of trashed, and I don't think it really picks it up, but there's like a crown here because it's got so much tension on it, pulling it back against it flush. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this real quick and simple, and Just slice this out, make one straight piece, flange it. That'll be real fast, 1 weld versus 2. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fill in this gap, but then here, slice it, make a nice easy rectangle, flange, boom, done. All right, so I didn't film a bunch at the end there. I was just getting kind of frustrated with it and just wanted to knock it out and move on, because these have turned into so much more than they should have. Like I said before, I would never buy these again. This is just beyond ridiculous. This, obviously, I still have to come in here and clean it up, weld a couple more spots. This stuff is way thinner than this. So they used 1 gauge of metal out here and even thinner under here. Some of it, I mean, you can just barely, that quick and it'll blow a hole in it. But that one's all up and tight. This one, the same thing. You can see I did my chunk here, filled the sliver here. I still have a bit to go, but I just wanted to get it in place, mounted up, so that I knew it was flush all the way around. You can just see the daylight coming through, but it is tight along here. So now I'll pop this nose back off, and you can see my gaps here with everything locked in. So I'm good. I'm gonna take this off, clean all the welds up, everything, you know, and then I can finally stick it on and weld it up. No more nose off of it. All right, so it's on for the last time. You can see I've ground the welds down, got all my screws back in, both sides. So now I'm lining this up, and I'm gonna just start tacking at the top, locking it in, both sides, get this all where it needs to be, tack it along. Then I'm gonna come and line these up, and then I'll come back and force all that up into place. And then once I have everything locked in, then I'll start plug welding all this. All right, so as you can see, I've already started tacking this nose back on. These are all tight. This same on this side. So now I just got to finish welding it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld all these seams up, and then I'm going to come back and press that up and spot weld that across. I think that'll be better. That way, if I was to push that up, it's going to want to bow this out more, and you know, I need this thing as flush and perfect as possible to run my weld down it. So it was nice. My son came out and helped me, and I held it in place, and he started tack welding it on there. So he got a kick out of that, and it helped me out. So it was nice. All right, let me get back to it. All right, so I got the nose mostly welded on here. Went ahead and plug welded those holes up there. Got this side going on. Did the nostrils real quick. So now I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna take, where did they go? I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna go ahead and just cut it in half through here so I can lay it on here, come back, scribe it, because I'm just gonna take this small portion out. There's no need to go any further than that. And especially since all this has been welded before, obviously, and they've ground it and everything, you hit spots that are thin and it blows out, and you got to fill them back in. This side's a mess, but I knew that going into it anyway. But let's see. You can see this is going to go basically to where I welded, where it was already starting to get thin, and you can see that they'd been filling it and everything. So chop both these in half and start getting those in. So as you can see here, I've got my piece cut, got it tacked right here, and I'm gonna have to bend it, stretch it, push it as I go around. So much curve here and curve here just to get everything to line up exact, and a nice tight finish, because it's wanting to roll this way and so on. So that's what I'm gonna do. Just gonna pull it back, tack, 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 till I get it all around and solid. Then I'll come back and weld it. All right, so I'm starting to work it in here, just tack, tack, start to weld this in. You can see I got this kind of funky shape going because this didn't really fit, and just replacing what I need to. Up here you can kind of see it's a bit higher. It's just a lot more curves and such to fit. So anyway, it fits here. It's hard to do it with one hand, but it's got a little bit of a lip on the top. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of do the same, just shape it in. I'll leave this open so I can trim it off if I need to as it rolls over, and then just work it all the way up and over. All right, so I know I kind of jumped over this, but you can see I welded it, ground it down. These are in, all this welded across. This I had to come back and put a piece in because keep in mind, this has been welded and grinded once before, and I'm going right back over it. So this stuff is thin to begin with, and then they were working it, and they'd gone back and filled it with the pewter and all that stuff. So, you know, you touch one spot and it'll just, and then other spots you can just go and lay a nice bead. So it all turns out different. Anyhow, onto the headlight buckets. Getting ready to put this one in. So here's how they come with these 3 holes. The original, just the one. So here's an aftermarket one that I've filled in and drilled the hole. So it's all back to factory spec. So here it is sitting in here. I'm getting ready to weld it. So I got to line it up. Remember, I did my Sharpie mark in the beginning so that I could come back and get that going. I came in here and just took my hole punch and popped a few holes to plug weld. So now I'll just pull it tight and go in here and plug weld it up. Okay, so here it is welded in. I'm not gonna grind it tonight. It's late, I'm just gonna call it. But tomorrow, come back out here and throw that one in. Just about done with the nose. I wanted to get the headlight buckets in and everything else taken care of before I went and pushed that up down there and ran it across, just to give me a little more, you know, give me a little more of ability to finagle it. You know, it's late, I'm tired, I'm having a hard time putting my words together. It's definitely time to quit. So that's where I'm at, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, so passenger side headlight bucket, welded up the 3 holes that they come with, drilled out the new one that's correct for the way that this would have come. Got it welded all the way around. Then came under here, spot welded the nose together. Nice tight seal. So the only other thing left to do on the nose, other than obviously grind those, is this piece right here, which I know it's been a while, so just to recap, this was like Swiss cheese in here, and it was only just a couple of small pieces that you could pretty much, like, if you went in here like this, and I was like, oh, okay, I can, you know, just tack weld those back up, fill them in, no big deal. Well, it was all gone, and then I had to go this big just to get back to some good metal. The antenna hole's been filled. This here was a mess too. This was worse than this. So now I've got my piece cut out here. Go ahead and drop this puppy in. Weld it all up. And you can kind of see here that the contour closer to the camera is sharper than the other one, because kind of like this patch here, which seems like just such a simple thing to put in, complex curves all over the place. You know, you definitely got to work them, and then as it wants to bow and twist, when you put heat to it trying to weld it, it's a little more than just your standard flat patch, of course. All right, get that welded up, and then show you the nose done. All right, so the nose is all welded up, done. Obviously, I'm gonna grind these off, but this will just wrap up the nose. Got this done here. Patches in, radio hole filled, this patch is in, done. This, obviously, I'm not gonna mess with because I gotta cut this up and replace both heater channels. So, that's gonna do it on this video. In the next video, I'll be bracing this up and cutting all of this mess out of here. Same thing with this. I'll deal with that after I get in here and replace what I have to. So we finally got this nose wrapped up on this thing. Man, what a process getting that done. Just kind of keep that in mind if you're gonna take on a project like this. You know, there's always more than what it seems, and you know, it can be done. My biggest advice is just take it one step at a time. You know, this car has got mess from one end to the next. That'll just overwhelm you. I mean, it'll overwhelm me sometimes coming out here and just going, oh man, look at all the work I've got to go. Oh. However, if you just stick to one section and you just knock that section out, then you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one, you'll get it done, and it's not that bad. So just kind of putting it out there, because I know we all can get overwhelmed and we can get burned out on these things and stuff. So especially when you're fighting new panels and nothing's working out and you're just like, why am I doing this? Well, it's kind of just the nature of the beast, to be honest. And you know, just you start getting burned out, just walk away, just take a break from it and come back. Because I mean, let's face it, the cars these days, the age that they're getting at, and the ones that we have left, this is becoming common practice. So, you know, even the ones that look decent, and then you get them home, you go blow them apart, they ain't so pretty. My shop bug build, for example, that thing was way worse than it looked like. You know, there's always hidden stuff. So, anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It's free. Leave me a like. That helps, you know, boost the channel and all that stuff. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of how this thing's going so far. And I have a lot more content backed up. I'm actually posting this video because I ran out of storage space for all the videos. I've just been keeping my head down and getting it done. The Ghia is, honestly, right now I'm on this side doing this, finishing this up, and then I'm on to the back of the car. The rest of it's already done. So I'm going to try to get it to where now that I have backlog videos, I can keep it more consistent. So again, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.